What is going on, guys? And welcome to the Underdog Experiment Week 3. Yes, we've made it. I've also fixed the camera. Try to make it all nice and pretty for you. Hope we don't have any technical issues tonight, because Friday was awesome, I tell you what. Nonetheless, here it is Monday. It's a new week. We're on week 3. We're on people skills. Hope you guys are excited. I am excited because in this Underdog experiment, we are ultimately trying to take advantage of that 10% of your day. Yes, that 10% on which the conscious side is actually allowing input into your day, as opposed to that 90% that your subconscious is essentially running your day, right? The whole autopilot all day, right? So you are essentially the underdog to your subconscious. So that being said, we are trying to take advantage of that 10% of the day, and we are working on a theme of people skills this week. It is one of those things that I think is tremendously valuable to everybody. And even when I say that, there's a lot of people that might try to avoid the people skill thing, because if you're an introvert, like I am, it is extremely hard, right? It is going way outside your comfort zone to even fathom going out and talking to other people or crowds or whatever the case is, or possibly even going live, right? This is all one of those things. And for me, I've again always been an introvert. But before we even get into that, I would like to just go over some stuff real quick. Again, I would like you guys to like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, before we start this week, what I've always been doing is I have always my top 5 books down in the description, and I always have relevant books for the theme of the week. So all the books I believe that go along with people skills are also down in the description, and I believe are extremely important, that have really influenced my people skills, right? And really made a dramatic impact on my people skills. And I believe they can do the same for you. And so that is something I believe you should really pick up one of those books, because again, they've done tremendous value. Again, I will share a lot of those details here tonight with you guys. I think it's, again, extremely important to get the people skills. Now, why do I believe people skills are so important, right? I think they can make one of the biggest impacts on your life. It's not something you really have to pay for, right? You can go typically get these skills. Other people do teach you skills. I am teaching these skills, right? Like, I teach what I've learned and what's worked for me. And they can, again, make a dramatic difference overnight even. There's some little techniques that you can do that can make a dramatic difference in the next conversation that you have. Let me actually expand this a little bit bigger. So you guys can get a better view of me. And once that gets old, we'll go ahead and change that. That's okay. We can work with it. So that, again, this is why people skills have always dramatically helped me in my life. And I want to help you in the same fashion by to take advantage of your people skills as well. So with that being said, right, all those books are in the description. Introverts. I know you're an introvert, and this conversation that we're having here, you're probably like, Marcus, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to go outside of my comfort zone, right? Introverts like to stay in their comfort zone. I totally understand that. Again, that's where I am coming from. But I've been reading a lot of these books, and I didn't actually include them in the description because they were more business oriented. But a lot of that's one thing you got to remember. When you're doing people skills, you are always trying to sell yourself, whether it is for a personal relationship or a business relationship. You're always selling yourself. You're showing what value you provide. Sorry, just looking down to see if there's any viewers on here. Again, you can stop me at any time and ask questions along the way. If there's anything that you feel that you want me to go further down the rabbit hole, go ahead and stop me. Okay, now being said, back to introverts, right? You have to press on that comfort zone. It is a skill that you have to continuously try to grow. For me, again, I did mention in my video yesterday that, I typically will, when I was a kid, I was told that I was shy. And at all, again, never felt that way. I've always felt like if I didn't have anything valuable to say, I just wouldn't say it at all, right? That's just the way I've always been. Then in my adult years, I realized how much communication was such a big thing. And so again, if I didn't feel like I had value, I wouldn't contribute, but I'd always try to provide value, right? And for introverts, you have to be prepared, right? And this is relating back to that book I was talking about, right? And why I didn't include it, because of the fact that it's business oriented, but it essentially sets the tempo, right? That anytime you go into any kind of conversation, if you feel like you're comfortable, right? Like preparation, right? Like I talk about preparation all the time. Preparation is big, and it's the same thing going into a conversation. If you can provide some kind of preparation going into a conversation, where like if you've read a couple books on conversations and kind of have like starters, a couple like 2 or 3 starters that you have that you can like break the ice and then look for things that draw your interest that you may actually know a little bit more about, or just know how to ask questions, right? One of the books I have down there is about, I believe it's like small talk, and it's like 92 lessons to, here, we can actually pull it up here. How about we just do that? Because that might actually be a lot easier, huh? So here, I'm going to go ahead and close myself off here for a second. So now you can no longer see me, but books, right? We're looking at the books and relevance here. What am I looking for here? How to talk to anyone. This particular book here, right? This book is one of those books that really helped me, right? It's helped me it gives you like a lot of conversation starters and how to look for stuff in conversations. And that is something you really have to kind of prep yourself in, right? Like if you read a book like that and then have 2 or 3 like setups every time you go into a conversation, you kind of lead the way, and you realize that the more you practice this, right, the better your communication skills become. You got to keep pushing that comfort zone, and you realize that eventually these conversations start becoming a lot easier, right? You can start shooting for a hip. You almost turn that introvert into an extrovert, which is hard to believe, right? But it is definitely something you can do. I have done it. I'm continuing to do it. I'm continuing to go outside of that realm, right? Hold on. Let me pull this up just so I don't miss any chats if somebody does come in. Stream settings. Okay. All right. I think we're good there. So that is a big thing, right? Is to continuously push your comfort zone, continuously try to find new things, right? Like I think you don't need to read every book. Like those books that I have listed there are pretty much like the only books I've read on it. So I have done some additional research, but not a lot. It's more about finding what's comfortable to you, right? Like I talk about everybody has their own blueprint, right? Your own footprint, and you have to find what works for you and continuously to push that and try a little bit more, and then eventually it just starts coming. Then you can start winging some things. Don't get too crazy, right? Us introverts don't want to get too crazy. But the thing is you start realizing that you can do this more and more often. And again, the winging and stuff helps a lot. Another great book I have down there, which if you are familiar at all with self-development, you've heard about the book, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, if I could talk. But this book, right, is like essentially the holy grail of like personal development, right? This is where the root of everything, every personal development book is essentially come from. And with that being said, there is a lot of gold nuggets in this book, and for good reason, right? There's a good reason. And I have listed some of the main things here. One of the biggest things when I think about the Dale Carnegie book is smiling, right? Like this has always been something I was like, it's so minute, right? Like would it really make that big of a difference to smile? And it really does, right? I believe there was actually a point in that, I don't know if it was that particular book or another book that referenced the Dale Carnegie book about smiling. But, a lot of times when you go in an interview, good scenario, right? You go into an interview And you may have the skills, you may have the skill set and all these other different things. Your resume looks flashy, and you go in and people are ecstatic to get you in there. And then when you get in there, you feel like it just wasn't going right, right? And one of the biggest things that I've noticed is by smiling, right? As long as you can smile, people, it brings a vibe, right? It changes your energy essentially, right? It changes your mood. And you notice this even when you're in a bad mood, that, hey, you know, if I smile, I can get in a good mood. Just imagine what that power has when you're in an interview, right? This is the same kind of power, right? You essentially transition that energy flow. Sorry, I'm distracted in the background, just checking to see here. So you're essentially channeling that energy, right, of your smile and all that to the next person. And so that's why it's so important if you can smile just a little bit, right? And this also works on a phone. It works actually tremendous, really good on the phone. And that's where I'm kind of leading up to is when you're on even like a phone interview, right? You don't know, like if you do this, right? Just do this. When you just dial up your phone, right, and leave a voicemail and talk to yourself without smiling, right? Do this for like 5 minutes and then play it back and see what you sound like. Now call your voicemail back, smile with the same message, right? You can tell the energy level in your voice even changes when you do that. It's actually tremendous, and I've done this, right? But it's something you have to again be aware of. It's what's being self-aware is a tremendously big thing that you need to establish, so that way you're aware of all these things that are going on, right? And there's the whole smiling gig and whatnot, and it makes a tremendous difference. And I can guarantee you it works like every time, right? And it just changes the vibe. So with that being said, smiling is definitely a number one, right? It's an easy thing that you can do in which you can see dramatic or instant results, right? If I could speak tonight, exactly. Effective communication, all that stuff, right? It's blah, blah, blah. Nonetheless, smiling is definitely the top on my list. Now, a big one is eye contact. And for me, it's kind of distracting because I got like a lot of screens and then I got to look at this right here. So I gotta focus. But eye contact is a big one, right? Eye contact is something that, you know, relays confidence. And I know, again, going back to the whole introvert thing, and the introvert thing plays a lot in this whole communication thing. It's getting over that hurdle, again, pushing your comfort zone and being able to just look in people's eyes and building that confidence is a huge thing. If you can look in people's eyes and not do it so much so to where it's like awkward, but when you are speaking, right, you should be looking into somebody's eyes. And I think that shows a lot, right? Because I've even noticed, again, you know, practicing this, that a lot of people will look away, right? Like a lot of people will. And then the only time I break eye contact is, again, when I'm not speaking or that person is not speaking as well, right? If there's a break in conversation, and again, you are going back to that book, right? We're going to go back to that book about, hey, you know, going to go back to that book on conversations here, right? How to talk to anybody. Again, all these books are awesome, by the way, just so you know, but this book is definitely good for those people that are looking for like the conversation starters and holding conversation. Again, great books. But eye contact, again, is definitely one of them, right? Like if you're making that eye contact and you break conversation, right? You essentially break eye contact and then think about what the next thing is, and then you carry on and then relay that message. And so I think eye contact is big. A lot of people, you know, people will listen to you more. You realize when you're making eye contact, and people, you know, feel like you're really listening to them when you are making that eye contact. And this actually leads into the next thing, which is listening, right? Genuinely listening to the person. And this is also what makes you a good communicator, is by allowing yourself to not think of the next thing that you're going to think of, right? And all these are the same thing that I pulled out of the Dale Carnegie book, is all these skills, right? And that's why this book is so valuable, is because you got to genuinely listen to what the person's saying, right? And actually give, so you can actually understand what they're trying to tell you and be able to answer them back, right? Because a lot of times when someone is speaking to us, we'll catch on to something that they say, and then we'll be essentially building the next thing that we would like to say, and then just waiting for a pause so that we can say what we've been trying to say. And so we're holding all this junk inside, and we're not really listening to what the person's saying. And, we're like half answering, half listening to someone, right? You're not like genuinely listening to what they're saying and letting them finish. That's another big thing. If you can do that, if you're making eye contact, that shows, right, that, hey, this person's actually genuinely interested in what I'm saying to them. And then, right, you're giving 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? Listen to the person. Allow a blank slate, listen to what they're saying, follow along with what they're telling you about, right? Like, really be genuinely interested in what they're trying to tell you. It's extremely important to do that, because, the person feels like you care, right? And you should care in what that person's telling you, right? They're trying to relay you a message. And so that's why it can be extremely effective by listening, right? So you got the 3 things. You got the smiling, the eye contact, and the listening. And then this leads into body language, right? Body language is also a huge one. And this one, I don't believe this is, I actually saw this in the Dale Carnegie book, right? But I followed up with this. The other book I do have in there is, I believe, by an FBI agent who did like hostage negotiations. He's well known. You can easily look him up. He's got a lot of videos, a lot of great stuff, right? And this is another big thing that I learned is it's all about body language, right? So you're essentially making visual contact, you're smiling, you're listening to what the person says, but again, it's all about the way you stand, right, too. And a big thing I've learned from that book is that I can't remember what it was called exactly, but your chest, right, is something that you realize that I want you to make an observation here, right? Like when you're talking to someone, look at their chest. Like if it's a woman, okay, like try not to be obvious, but like be aware of their chest, right? And where their chest is. Are they covering their chest? Because you realize if someone covers their chest, they're closed off, right? They're not open to what you're telling them. And so these are like little cues to pick up on in the way you stand, right? Is your shoulders back? Is your chin up, right? Yeah, all these things matter. It even matters to how your hands are positioned, right? If your hands are over the top, that means it relays the message that essentially that you're not open to what they're saying, right? Like it's good to keep your hands open, palms up, so people can trust you. You're trying to allow that person to trust you to open up. That's what you're trying to do, is essentially provide that to them by doing this. And so all these things playing again, right? You got the visual, you got the smile, you're listening, you got the body language. People will more adapt to listening to you and trusting in the fact that you're listening, right? And actually be honestly listening and communicating with that person. And I feel all these things together, they combine to make you an effective communicator. And it takes a lot of time, right? Where you're like, Marcus, well, how am I supposed to stare him in the eyeball, smile at him, listen to him, I was there, right? You got to do a step at a time, right? You got to chunk this down and do it one step at a time. Slowly increment these things. Work on the smile first. If you're a person that is really hard to make eye contact, work on the smile for a while, right? So you get comfortable with it. Then maybe work on the body language, right? Maybe you're still having trouble with looking at somebody in the eye. I know that's one thing that a lot of people have trouble with, that they continue to struggle with, right? So again, you don't have to go in any particular order. The smile is the easiest one to do, right? You can always smile. You can always smile. You can always work on your body language, just trying to understand the positioning of your body, being aware of these things, right? And then slowly doing it. Because there's a lot of times, even with me, like when I start a conversation, I'll realize that, hey, like maybe my arms are across or something, right? So I got to open that up, right? I want to open the trust and be like, I'm willing to listen to that person, right? Like palms up, all these other things. It's not like you have to stand all funny and stuff. Trying to stand comfortably. Don't make yourself uncomfortable because you're just going to make the other person uncomfortable, right? So these are all little things. And you realize that with the preparation as well, on top of all these other things, right? And pushing that boundary level that you have set for yourself, you realize that by doing these things, you become a better conversationalist. You become better with people, right? And that's what we're ultimately trying to do, is to make you better and taking, again, advantage of the 10%. So with that all being said, I think all these things are like fantastic, right? Like all these books, again, you don't have to read every little book. You don't have to know every little thing. It's knowing a little bit. Reasons to give. Well, thank you for joining. The topic today is people skills. That's what we were talking about today. That is a theme for this week, on week 3, and that's what we are doing. We just went over some Dale Carnegie stuff. Again, if you guys miss anything, you can always hit up the replay. But we talked about some Dale Carnegie stuff. I'm talking about the books, essentially, that have really helped me in my communication skills. Again, you don't have to overload yourself with every little book. Personal development, I think there's a lot of stuff is repetitive. But again, it's applying these things, right, is ultimately what matters. And so, again, you read those couple of books, body language, you're reading those books on the people skills. These will help. It's going in the field and applying them and pushing that boundary, right? Pushing your comfort level will get you the results that you want. Taking advantage of that 10% every day, right? If your only thing this week is to smile, is to concentrate on smiling and doing that, then do that, right? Pick one thing. I know I have a list I have my goals, right? My meat wall and all that jazz I have down in the comments, right? It's just, you will get there eventually. You have to, whatever your footprint is, wherever you're starting from, start there and incorporate that one thing every week and continue your list, right? If that one thing takes you 4 weeks to do it, to get it down to where you're automatically doing it without actually thinking about it, well, then you're golden, right? And then you can move on to the next thing. Don't try to, again, change everything overnight, because it's not going to happen overnight, right? It's not it's going to happen. So that's that. And as far as like the specific talking points I had tonight, I'm trying to think. Everything I do have, again, down in the description. I have those relevant books. I have my top 5 books. I don't know if you guys have picked a book for these 4 weeks. I have finished my first book, was The Lives of the Stoic, which that book was okay. It was okay. I'm going to go with that. But I am reading a new book. Again, I wanted to put it down in the description. This particular book actually isn't out yet. It doesn't come out to January, but I will be doing a book review on it. And it's Introvert's Edge to Networking. Again, it's a people book, but it's not. And again, I relay this all back to sales, right? You are always trying to sell yourself, whether you want to believe that or not. If you want to become a legend in people skills, right? I think it's ultimately learning about sales. You are always trying to sell yourself. Remember that. You are always trying to sell yourself. And so if you want to level up in your life, if you can build the people skills, always focus on sales, selling yourself, right? What value can you bring? Again, it can be the smallest things. The smallest things make the biggest difference. And again, The Introvert's Edge to Networking. I absolutely love this book. This is the new book I've picked up. It's a phenomenal book. It has really taught me a lot. I know Matthew Pollard is actually the author of this book. He wrote another book on Introvert's Edge. I don't know if that's the full title. I have done a book review on this particular book. He, again, talks about some introvert stuff, which is phenomenal. And I know a lot of people that you guys that are probably here are probably actually introverts. Again, like I was at one point, I still am, right? I've pushed myself, right? I've pushed my boundaries to a point to where I can do this stuff. It just takes that step, right? You're going to fail. You have to realize that you're going to fail at these things, and it's okay. You have to be okay with that, right? There's history has proven to us that the greatest leaders, right, the greatest people with speaking skills, right, that you have to build it up. That stuff that just doesn't come naturally. Some of it does, little bits, pieces of it, right? But it's all about good practice, right? And being aware of what you're doing to allow yourself to do that, right? And to get yourself out there and push that comfort zone. So again, just keep pushing it a little bit every day. A little bit of effort every single day. It adds up, right? It compounds, right? You're building up that compound interest, right? That's ultimately what it's about. It is doing the little bits every day. And that's what we're trying to do for these 4 weeks is build that up. And so with that said, let's see. So the books, I think I hit on all that stuff. Goals this week. That's where we're at. Goals this week. What I am working on is networking. It is something I have lacked on, right? Like I've tried to, especially like with the YouTube stuff, like I've tried to be in the YouTube communities and build my networking through that, right? And as far as like networking out of any side of that, like I haven't been a big network person, right? Like I've always done stuff myself. I've networked a little bit here and there, but it's, we start getting in the business side of the house. It's a lot more of getting out of your comfort zone. You have to push yourself. You have to, right? And you have to realize that once your comfort zone extends, right, you're comfortable. Right? You extend that bubble out and then you're a lot more comfortable to going out and doing more and challenge yourself to more things. And at that point, you're like, man, I'm doing pretty good here. Like I should push it even more, right? You will get there. You will get there, right? Little steps, you will get there. Believe me. A couple of years ago, right? Like I was nowhere near here, right? You have to realize that the more you do it, the more comfortable you get, right? You're extending your pond, right? You may be a little fish in a little pond. You become the big fish in a little pond. Then you start extending that pond out, right? You keep going past there, right? And then you're a little fish again, and then you're a big fish again, and then you just keep extending it. And so it's ultimately about doing that. And for this week, I'm trying to network with more people, right? And I'm reaching out to do interviews now and helping people, rebuild themselves, right? Or essentially creating themselves. Because I think we tend to forget that to improve yourself, you have to realize that you are constantly creating yourself, right? Thanks, Raising to Give. I appreciate that. Yeah, it slipped my mind sometimes. I have blonde moments, so I do appreciate that. Even though you can't see the blonde highlights in there, they do exist, and it does happen sometimes. So I do appreciate that. But The Introvert's Edge is a fantastic read. I do highly suggest that you pick up that book. Again, it's more business oriented, but again, I think you have to come at people skills and that business mindset, right? I think that definitely helps you and realize that, hey, I'm not trying to run a business here. I'm just trying to show people the value that I can bring. Right, that's ultimately what it's about. So again, back to this week. Hey man, it's all good. You gotta laugh at yourself sometimes, right? But networking is what I'm focused on this week. That's what I am doing. So I reached out, right? I have a good friend that actually has a business in health, and so again, last week we did. The pillar was on health, and so I want to bring that back eventually. At the end of the 4 weeks, I am still looking to go live. I still would like to go live and helping people create themselves, right? And rebuild themselves from whatever point in your life that you are. And so I'm going to bring him on and do an interview with him and kind of get people started, right? If you feel that your physical health level is not where you want it to be, I'm bringing him in to help you guys kind of ease some of that. I've known the guy for quite a long time, for many years actually. He's a great person. He has a great. I myself have lost like 50 pounds. He's lost 50 pounds. He's changed his life. He's flipped his life completely, 180 like I have. And so I'm going to bring him on and share some of his experiences and hopefully help you guys out. And in the health department, right, I want to continue building these live streams in that fashion, essentially working on those 3 pillars. Again, the time management thing, if you guys are interested in hitting on that for like another live, we can always do that. Time management, again, I think it's one of those things where you can kind of learn about it and then it's just applying it, right? And essentially blocking out your time and knowing how to be effective with your time. And again, knocking out those lists all the time. Wiggle the mouse here just so we don't lose connection. All right, so I think that is pretty much everything I've got. Again, at the end of this live, I will have the pinned comment down below. I will update that. I haven't updated that yet. But I'm carrying, again, everything over for week 1 and week 2, carrying that into this week. Again, pushing all that stuff. I have been doing fantastic on the social media stuff, by the way. I have been doing like 10 minutes here and there almost every day. A couple of days I get some goose eggs, which is awesome. But that makes a tremendous impact. That is definitely provided with me some being more effective and more efficient with my time, because that is a time sucker, and you all know what I'm talking about. So so that's pretty much what I have here. Again, everything is in the description, relevant books, my top 5. Again, if you guys would like to support the channel, I have a link down below for that as well. If you guys have any questions, I do appreciate the support, reasons to give. You're awesome. Any questions? I know it's a little bit delayed, so I will wait for a minute or so. I could do jazz fingers, whatever you want, for the last minute, just so to kind of get over the whole delay. But if not, that's what I got for this week. That's what I'm concentrated on. I am working on networking, hopefully trying to reach out to some other people as well and get the networking going, get some more interviews on here. Again, aiming at those 4 pillars and whatever people I can. Hoping to probably look at, I think I'm probably actually looking at some, doing some self-publishing and stuff too is something else I want to bring someone on and interview with. Oh, fantastic. Well, I hope I can help you tonight. I hope the resources I provide you, I hope the stuff that I've been going over tonight on the recap, hope you can check this out again. And hopefully I provide you some value reasons to give and help you out, man, because I know it's definitely not something easy, especially, again, if you're an introvert. Preparation's where it's at. Yeah, definitely, man. Like I said, all those books in there. Dale Carnegie is definitely number 1. It will slowly get you there for sure. Again, the little things will definitely help out. So, but again, pin comment, everything will be down. And again, after this live stream, I'll go ahead and update that. I know I still got to do a stillness session before I can wrap up my night. Again, it's always important to make sure that those things that you have listed, that you knock them out, make sure they get completed, right? You don't want to push it off until tomorrow. Again, this is why documenting all this stuff is extremely important, because that unseen progress, again, you don't know how much actual progress you've made until you see it, right? And a lot of times you don't see it for a while, or you fall off and then you realize, man, I was actually pretty far ahead. Where would I have been had I kept it up 6 months later, right? So again, I hope you guys are having a fantastic night. Thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate you guys being here. Again, hit the like button on the way out. And until Friday on the recap, I will see you guys then. All right, guys, have a good evening. Thank you, guys. Peace.